So, I've said at the moment there is going to be a coming an interesting point where we see the first bill regarding regulations pass through Parliament. Because you see, there's a slight problem. You see, the Brexiteers and the Tories are, and particularly the Brexiteers, are free market fundamentalists. And that essentially means that they do not want any type of government regulation whatsoever in the market, meaning they want the market to just run free, to there to be no regulations, to be no workers' rights, no environmental protections, nothing. The market should be allowed to do what it wants, and that will lead to absolute disaster on so many levels. And the thing was to quote, take back control. The problem is that there is going to come a very interesting fight, because when you poll the public about regulations, they want big businesses to be regulated, just like Brussels. So this is going to become a very interesting battle when it happens, and it's something that we should be prepared for. But we're going to get into that today, because there are, as we've said, already warning signs that the government is going to try and take away some, especially we've seen getting rid of the Working Time Directive being toted about, and workers' rights being the two big ones, and not just those. There's already one about the reissuing of chemicals that kill bees, that are banned in the EU. We've seen some of these things that, again, the Tories promised they wouldn't do that. This idea of, oh yes, we'll create stronger regulations. It's not. What they'll do exactly what the Republicans do in America, of, oh yes, this is a much stronger regulation, when it's not. It's a far worse regulation, and it does nothing, or covers nothing of what the old regulation used to be. So that's my worry that we're going to see. Or they're going to tout it, oh, you don't understand, we're giving workers freedom to decide. And then that old chestnut, which it's not. Again, we've already seen that being trotted out. So, before we jump into the article, please do remember to hit that like and share button. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link. And thank you very much to the people who do support me that way. So, there we go. So, on into the article. And this comes from The Guardian. So, the government will find taking back control brings its own headaches. Take back control worked wonderfully well as a campaign slogan. It infuriated Remainers, while Leavers struggled to specify any European rule that they would change should they be able to do so. However, Dominic Cummings knew all too well that this idea of control, rather than the question of what to do with it, mattered most to Leave voters. The latter was a problem for later. And now latter has arrived. The UK has indeed reclaimed its sovereignty, and as a result, we will now have to come to decide what kind of country we aspire to be in terms of broader regulatory terms. The available evidence suggests that the government won't find it easy to keep on the right side of public opinion when exacting its newfound power, as it did when it demanded control. Do we, for instance, want to allow light bulbs that waste energy, or to ban them? Should mobile phone companies be forced through regulation not to hike up prices when we are abroad? Should food standards be higher to the point of banning certain products, even if that increases the prices of imports and the cost in supermarkets? Is it right to subsidise farmers with taxpayers' money to grow food that we need? Should we mind losing some of our rights at work in the name of competitive deregulation? All of those are broad questions about the state interference in the market. On each, the government can now decide on behalf of the public, and those questions the British Social Audit Survey, a gold standard measurement of public opinion, is very clear on. Some 66% say old light bulbs should be banned. More than 2/3 of voters want to keep EU rules that limit the cost of calls made abroad. almost 9 in 10 say that the UK should not allow hormone-treated beef to be sold, and 3/4 say the same about chlorinated chicken. Some 65% think that the public should regularly pay farmers. The UK Research and Innovation Future for Britain project, led by John Curtis, has found that more of the public debates around these regulatory questions demand the greater opposition to deregulation becomes. So there's a very, very clear message, and I don't think the government are going to pick it up because, as we've said, go and look up the preface to Britannia Unchained, and it's very clear. It says the reason Britain is doing bad is because of all these regulations. Oh, whoa! If we didn't have all these regulations, then Britain would be an economic powerhouse. We'd be amazing. If we get rid of all these workers' rights, which make our workers for some reason are the reason why British workers are lazy. It's absolutely insane. But this is what the Tories want to do. And remember, the vast majority of people who wrote Britannia Unchained are now sitting on the front bench. So we can expect to see these arguments for, the more these come up and the public is informed about the issues, the more people want to regulate the market. The problem is the Tories don't want to regulate the market. They want to deregulate the market. And lo and behold, we are going to enter some sort of very fierce battle, and it's going to be very interesting to see potentially the U-turn the government might make about the amount of pressure that is put on it. So if you are living in the UK, then this is something you are going to have to pay close attention to, because the Tories could very sneakily go and just deregulate something and keep it on the hush-hush. If they manage to do that, then we could have to have a massive fight, and I mean a massive fight, to try and re-regulate it. And, but during the meantime of that fight to try and re-regulate it, it could cause huge damage to people up and down the UK and to industries and all sorts of stuff. So, again, it's something we need to keep an eye on. Anyway, it continues. So all these issues individually are unlikely to get the average voter excited, and I agree. And cumulatively, along with decisions on tax and welfare, though they amount to deciding whether or not the UK wants to remain a mainstream European social market economy. And on this, voters are clear. The median British voter is a left-wing authoritarian, strongly in favour of state intervention and sceptical of big business. This is particularly true of voters who switched to Conservatives in 2019. 81% whom agree that big businesses takes advantage of ordinary people. In adapting to this political reality, the Prime Minister is constrained by his parliamentary party. For many Conservative MPs, Brexit was a political means to an economic end. Our research at the UK in a Changing Europe found that Tory MPs, as you might expect, have a clear ideological aversion to a larger role for the state. It was, and is, as Daniel Hannan demonstrated, remains an article of faith for Conservative Eurosceptics, that leaving provide the opportunity to exploit the efficiencies that deregulation could bring. And as a result, the theoretical opportunity of moving away from EU rules was the key priority for a UK government in the negotiations. And there will be huge pressure from within Boris Johnson's parliamentary party, despite the very real possibility of proportionately regulatory tariffs to these new levers to engage in regulatory competition. And previously, the hawkish economic instincts of the Parliamentary Conservative Party were partly disguised by EU membership, as the Leave campaign made clear so effectively. There were certain things that we simply could not do, and hence did not need to debate. But while in the EU, railing against EU diktats made for good politics, it has turned out. Yet, if Brexit has made the lines of democratic accountability clear, that also leaves fewer places for the governing party to hide. One of the curious side effects of those Brexit wars, followed by the coronavirus crisis, has been the limited extent to which we have actually been governed over the last few years. Now, with the end of the transition, the government will be asked to make a series of public policy choices, some of which have not been debated domestically for some time. The government may be beginning to realise that making those decisions comes with political cost attached. Equally, these arguments provide an opportunity for Labour to put itself on the right side of public opinion when it comes to the economic implications of Brexit. In short, the Prime Minister won the Brexit war, and Keir Starmer may have an opportunity to win the peace. And there you have it. Ultimately, what will happen is we will end up, as I've said all along, we will just end up sliding back in, because this government is almost certainly not going to try and reapproach Europe by joining programmes, etc., and pursuing closer ties. It will be left up to future governments, maybe even future Tory governments, because by that time it is going to be very clear, especially from the big businesses, putting huge amounts of pressure on the Tory party, that their ideological creed of, deregulation and, being out of the single market is a good thing. Ultimately, we will rejoin the single market or customs union in some way, shape, or form. And then ultimately, we will rejoin the EU. Brexit, when you ask it, was it worth it? So far, it hasn't turned out to be worth it. There have been no great dividends that the Brexiteers have been able to prove. So far, we've got two of their largest support groups absolutely furious with them. Furious. To the point where the fishermen are threatening to go to the homes of Brexiteers and start dumping lorry loads of rotting fish on their driveways. And quite frankly, I really hope that happens. So, as always, please do remember to hit that like and share button as you leave on your way out, should we say? And also, please. Can't say it today, but yeah, I've got links down below to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link should you like to go and support the channel that way. And of course, we'll see you all next time.